Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is. Okay, where do we start? It's Monday. We got a couple days till Christmas. We have 4 days until 4 days? Yes, 4 days. 4 days until I tell you guys whether or not I'm going to run for governor. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I have gotten, I don't know, a lot of good mail, a lot of hate mail at the same time. And people are now asking me how I'm going to handle the Victor Marks and Scott Bottoms. Scott Bottoms, I think, is a great guy. Victor Marks, I think, is a showman, but I don't think he's actually cut out for any job in politics, although he makes a better politician than most politicians. We're going to talk about a few things today, and then we're going to be joined by our guest, retired Air Force Colonel Thomas Buzz Rempfer. I hope I got that right. He's going to talk about the origins of today's vaccine mandates that trace back to the Anthrax program in the military. If you know anything about that, it's a kind of a big deal. Forcing experimental shots on troops, making them the human guinea pigs. That dates back to the 1998-2001 era. He is the author of Unyielding and the founder of hopingforjustice.org, calls for Trump-era record corrections and discharge upgrades for punished veterans. And I'm sure he has a lot to talk about. He is a retired colonel. And he served our country well. And frankly, I want to hear more about this, because this is the slippery slope that we all talk about, right? Is how do we get to a place right now where they force people to take vaccines, unproven vaccines that supposedly came out of nowhere. Then we find out that they had been studying and creating these vaccines for the last couple of years, which means they knew that they were going to be releasing this virus on the world, which also means that they knowingly committed genocide to a couple million Americans during the height of the COVID scare. So we're going to talk about a few other things before we bring in our guest. One of which is I want to give you an update on Tina Peters. And I put a lot of stuff out there over the last couple of days, and I would be lying if I told you that I had confidence in all the things that we're doing. Everyone says that everything takes time, and yet the antithesis to that would be that everything that President Trump knew he could get done in a very short period of time, he just stroked his pen and got it done, closing the border. The border should have never been open to begin with. And yet we can create peace all around the world, but we haven't been able to get Tina Peters out of jail. And the bad part about that is that we can see what's right in front of us. We can see the fact that these are coups that have been committed against our states individually. Started in California. I think it actually started in Colorado, and then they used that tool in California, Washington, Oregon, and then just moved inward from both coasts inside. So using the Dominion voting system. But here, let me give you an update of Tina Peters. Tina Peters has been kept in isolation for weeks after now discussing conditions in the prison to an investigator. Per prison guidelines, there are a 15-day max on isolation. During the time, prison officials appeared to be in a panic, having certain inmates working hours every day to get the facility up to regulations during the investigation directed by Civil Rights Division of DOJ. During the investigation, all girls were locked down and reportedly were not allowed to talk freely. Since investigators have left, things appear to be back to business as usual. If it seems like a cover-up or civil rights abuses that and violation of DOC policies, you're probably right. The Tina Peters cell is 96 degrees today. 8th Amendment, tinapeters.us. Just head on over there and drop a few dollars to Tina if you would. All right, so what gives, right? What gives? Tina Peters gave access to her election system so they could make a copy of it, and that copy led to Mesa County reports 1, 2, and 3 that show a pattern of fraud inside the Dominion voting systems. Now, we've talked about how you take that all the way back. You take it back to what was done in Arizona, you talk about the things that we were able to uncover by getting to audits. And then in the end, the media that does what it does as a machine for this radical coup that has taken over our country said there's nothing to see here, votes match, and Biden had more votes, which is not what an audit is. But let's talk about something else that just came out. Now, I just actually sent Harrison Floyd a text message saying, I hope you sue the living shit out of these people, and I mean it. Fulton County, Georgia now admits they violated the law in 2020 when they certified 315,000 early votes that lacked poll workers' signatures. So let's go ahead and put this up if we can. And massive election fraud proven. Fulton County now admits to violating the law in 2020 when it certified 315,000 early votes that lacked poll worker signatures. We don't dispute the allegation. The Georgia Secretary of State also stated that Fulton County violated official election processes. The lawyer for Fulton County has now admitted it, along with the Georgia SOS office. It's all public information. Biden won Georgia by 11,779 votes after 315,000 votes were illegally counted. The fraud also cost Republicans a Senate seat, which gave Biden the Democrats' executive and legislative branch control in 2020. What would be the consequence for the proven massive fraud on the American voter? Let's go ahead and play this video if we can.
I've not seen the tapes myself, but we do not dispute that the tapes were not signed. It was a violation of the rule. Since 2020, again, we have new leadership and a new building and a new board and new standard operating procedures. And since then, the training has been enhanced. The poll watchers are trained specifically. They've got to sign the tapes in the morning, and they've got to sign the tapes when they're run at the end of the day. When the tapes come back to the hub for, with all the documentation, they are checked again. And if somebody forgot to sign a tape, then Fulton initiates an investigation. But we don't dispute the allegation.
We don't dispute the allegation, yet that's what they spent the last 4 years disputing was the allegation. They did it in nearly every state. Now, to make the matters worse, we're up against a little bit of a different shift. We have all of the fraud. We have them dead to rights on the fraud. And we had the evidence from day one. We have the mathematical evidence. We have forensic auditors as evidence. We've been able to open the machines and show what they can do. We have the date back that goes all the way back to 2005 when Sequoia Voting Systems was acquired by Smartmatic, which we all know had the fraudulent elections in Venezuela. It's a Venezuelan company that came here and purchased Sequoia Voting Systems and then took over elections in 17 states and the District of Columbia. Now, that led to them hiring Eric Coomer. Eric Coomer was brought in a month after they made the acquisition as the chief architect, despite the fact that he had absolutely no experience in being an architect of anything. You date that back to his doctorate dissertation, and you go and push that information against what we found in the Cassville records to see if the algos in one match up to his doctorate thesis, and it matches up perfectly. Now, all of that to be said, they could have messed up every law and every rule that's out there. They called it a rule, they didn't call it a law. And now they're admitting it years later, probably because the statute of limitations has long passed, but more because it's just water under the bridge. They don't feel like they should be held accountable to anyone. Again, it's the haves versus the have-nots, the people with a voice versus the people that don't have a voice. And I want to show you this. This is a discrete USB handoff that happened live on video between poll workers in 2020. Let's go ahead and put that up if we could. And here you can see her grabbing the USB drive. She puts it in her hand. You can see that it's a USB drive. She has it in her hand. The guy walks over, does this thing like a yawn, kind of puts his arms out a little bit. Here it goes. 1, 2, 3. She gets up. All of a sudden slips it in his jacket. And he walks away with the USB drive. We all know what the USB drives are able to do, and we also know what they do as far as a function inside Dominion voting systems. You cannot have a system where some poll watcher knows where the vulnerabilities are if someone inside of Dominion voting system wasn't actually telling people that they could steal the election. Again, I'll come back to Eric Coomer in 2020. How did I pick a rabbit out of a hat, out of 2,500, or how many people they had at Dominion? You pick a guy out that happens to be an Antifa lover, a skinhead, a guy that writes about raping his wife and peeing on her, a guy that says, hey, don't worry about it. Trump's not going to win. I made effing sure of it. But then, no. Then he gets to sue me for defamation and say, hey, I didn't do anything wrong. And this is the evidence that we have. There's so much of this evidence that we have. And now the media can't ignore it. But the defamation against me and other people like me has continued for the last 5 years. And even though President Trump is in office, it still continues. And then here's a post I have in response to that video. And frankly, this is what I think is important to say, and that is, yet no one went to jail. Mayor Giuliani got a judgment for $149 million against him, and the rotted judiciary continues to operate. That's kind of the reality we're up against right now. And that's why, I mean, again, we're going to be having a conversation with Tom, who's a retired colonel, and we're going to talk about what went back to 1998 to 2001. So is it going to take 24 years for us to get to the bottom of this? Is it going to be where they bleed us completely dry and we get to the place where we can't save our country? Because I think everything has a starting point. And in our country, what they've done to us and what they've done to this country is absolutely abhorrent. And yet, justice doesn't ever seem to be served. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to get there. It just means it sure has taken a long time to get to the place we're at right now. So with that said, I'm going to welcome, Tommy's going to join us too. Tommy is joining us, so I'll have Colonel Rempfer. Is it Rempfer? Rempfer and Tommy join us. Welcome to the show.
How you doing, Colonel Rempfer?
Hey, thanks for organizing this, Tommy. Appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for doing it.
Lot to go through. You're a whistleblower.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not the way I expected my military career to transpire, but it's definitely the way the military trained me. That if something's wrong, you're supposed to blow the whistle on it, and you're supposed to call it out. I did that early on in my career. I was able to serve a total of 32 years, and one of my passions at this point in my life in retirement is to try to get the records corrected for the service members that were punished over illegal military medical mandates. And there were thousands and thousands during the anthrax vaccine disaster that were punished. And then, of course, as we all know, more recently with COVID, there were tens of thousands that were punished, and literally up to 100,000 that ultimately were coerced, forced out of the military as a result of those unlawful mandates. So my objective has always been to try to get anthrax era veterans records corrected. And then we had a new generation of service members with COVID that also need to get their records corrected. And I will go through kind of the progress in both of those battles for the two different eras, anthrax era and COVID era. You guys can ask me questions and I'll touch upon that. And if it's okay, I'll just give a little bit more about my military background for your listeners.
Yeah, please.
So I was an Air Force Academy graduate. I'm very grateful for my undergraduate education from the Air Force Academy. Went to pilot training, ended up flying F-16s after pilot training. Also active duty, I flew F-117s. And then as a guardsman and reservist, I flew A-10s, and then I also flew a variety of drone type aircraft towards the end of my career. In the middle of my career, unfortunately, I had this anthrax vaccine mandate dilemma that we encountered in my unit, and my commander actually tasked us to let him know if there were any concerns about the vaccines. He formally stood up a task force. Myself and my late colleague, Lieutenant Colonel Russ Dingle, were members of that task force. They called it a Tiger Team, basically a team that would dig into an issue, discover if there were any problems, and make sure the chain of command was informed about those problems. And so that's what happened with us in the 1998, 1999 timeframe. We rapidly discovered that the anthrax vaccine mandate that had been put forth by the Department of Defense was patently illegal. They were using a vaccine that they knew perfectly well was inadequate as early as 1985, so almost 15 years prior to our Tiger team. Again, our Tiger team in the late 90s, 15 years earlier, the Department of Defense, in cooperation with the Food and Drug Administration, is trying to develop a new vaccine. They actually publish in the Federal Register a request for proposal to get a new vaccine because the current vaccine is inadequate, fundamentally unsafe, fundamentally ineffective. And they also knew that there were licensing issues. Also in that year, 1985, they published in the Federal Register a proposed rule. That proposed rule was hoping to get a license finalized for the anthrax vaccine. It never got finalized. So not only the anthrax vaccine mandatory use during the first Gulf War, early 90s, but also the larger, broader program in the late 90s for all 2.4 million service members, that mandate was patently illegal because they had a vaccine that they knew perfectly well was not properly licensed by the Food and Drug Administration. And also in these intervening years in the 1990s, they also applied directly to the Food and Drug Administration with what they call investigational new drug applications, and they applied to try to get it properly approved for what they were using it for. They were using it for inhaled anthrax, the anthrax infection that you might encounter in a battlefield type situation, aerosolized inhalation anthrax. It wasn't licensed for that. They had a pending application to try to get it approved. Wasn't approved. They launched the mandate anyway, even though they knew perfectly well that it didn't have a formalized, finalized licensure by the FDA, didn't have a finalized approval for what they were using it for, the specific application, which is required by law. And so they absolutely knew that it was patently illegal, and they did it anyway. Good news was Congress had put in some laws into place, Title 10, Section 1107 of the U.S. Code, based on the experimentation that our troops suffered during the first Gulf War. And they put this law into effect that said, you can't experiment on our troops. Our troops are entitled to informed consent, the option to accept or refuse investigational or experimental drug products, which anthrax vaccine was. So in our Tiger team, we let the commander know that. We basically gave him the warning. This is patently illegal. Therefore, when the mandate went forward, we refused to comply with that mandate. Chain of command was on notice. They absolutely knew that it was illegal. And it even gets worse. The Food and Drug Administration had also stepped in and conducted inspections of the manufacturer, which was a little backwater facility up in the state of Michigan, previously quote unquote run by the Michigan Department of Public Health, but not really. It was effectively an Army lab. The United States Army had a deep, intimate history with anthrax vaccine. They invented it. They patented it. They illegally altered it without FDA approval, changing fermenters, filters, fermentation systems, numbers of assembly lines, all illegal under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. So the Food and Drug Administration actually finally went into the plant and said, hey, you got all these violations, what they call deviation of current good manufacturing practices. And they issued the manufacturer a notice of intent to revoke its license just prior to the Department of Defense anthrax mandate. None of it made any sense. So after we refused, we actually testified to Congress. And when we testified to Congress, I made one of my central themes be related to doctrine. The military had never done this before, with the exception of the first Gulf War, where they did provide biodefense type vaccines and drug products. Prior to this, there was always what they referred to as a chemical and biological warfare taboo when it came to not only the use of these kinds of weapons, but also posturing defensively against them, because you just basically can't do it. You know, if you end up developing a countermeasure to a biological weapon, you're essentially encouraging the enemy just to go tweak the biological weapon and make sure that whatever your countermeasure is ineffective. So there was always this taboo. And I joined the military in 1983. This mandate wasn't until the late 1990s. We never did this before. It made no sense. And so the theme of one of my congressional testimonies was basically that this was a doctrinal departure. Our doctrine never included, and rightly so, never included posturing against biological weapons with ineffective, unlicensed biological defense type countermeasures, vaccines, or drugs. It never made any sense, and we never did it before. So it was a doctrinal departure, and I thought that it was incoherent. And fortunately, the Bush administration ultimately came in and agreed with that. They gave recommendations to Secretary of Defense Don Rumsfeld well into this anthrax vaccine fiasco controversy, and they recommended that we minimize the use of the anthrax vaccine, develop a new vaccine, which they knew they needed since 1985, and develop a doctrinally coherent manner to deal with these threats in the future. And so that was good. That was the Bush administration just prior to 9/11. Unfortunately, it was about 3 weeks prior to 9/11 and 4 weeks prior to the anthrax letter attacks, which started 1 week after 9/11. And it took 10 years, but ultimately the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Justice ended up determining that the perpetrator of the anthrax letter attacks, the motive was to save the failing anthrax vaccine program. Problem was, it took them 10 years to make this ruling, this finding from the Department of Justice and FBI, and they never went back and looked at why the anthrax vaccine program was failing. And instead, everybody just capitulated to the fear, and they actually resuscitated the anthrax vaccine program and mandate, which was the precise, according to the FBI, that was the precise motive of the attacks. One of the people attacked was a senator that we had been working with. H. Ross Perot had reached out early on, and we had briefed him. He had ensured that we were able to brief Karl Rove in the White House, Senator Warner in the Senate, Senator Daschle in the Senate. And Senator Daschle was one of our major allies. He actually had written to Secretary of Defense Don Rumsfeld and said, hey, you need to seriously resurvey the punishments meted out, quote unquote, of our troops. You've been punishing people over this illegal vaccine, and you need to look at that. Well, he gets attacked with anthrax letters on October 15th of 2001, and you basically never hear anything from Senator Daschle again. And unfortunately, the aggressive Department of Defense critical review of the anthrax program essentially initiated because of H. Ross Perot's engagement, Karl Rove's engagement, communications to Paul Wolfowitz in the White House, investigations by Undersecretary of Defense's Dr. David Chu and Pete Aldridge, recommendations to the SecDef to minimize the use of this vaccine, basically can this program. And if you're going to use a vaccine, develop one that actually works. Unfortunately, the anthrax letters changed all that, and nobody ever went back, did an after-action report, and analyzed the congressional report that said, hey, you're breaking the law with this vaccine mandate. The GAO reports that showed significant safety, efficacy, and manufacturing problems. And unfortunately, they just kept buying more anthrax vaccine as a result of the fear bomb of the anthrax letter attacks, which were, for all practical purposes, a false flag, a fear bomb, an insider attack, a lab leak. The anthrax came from one of our Army laboratories, Fort Detrick. And the perpetrator was allegedly, according to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, one of the scientists who was primarily involved with the anthrax vaccine and was trying to save it. So really a disastrous history. And then nobody ever went back and jotted down the lessons learned, making sure that we don't ever do it again. And then unfortunately, COVID happens and they do the exact same thing they develop a countermeasure, this time not just for the troops, but for the general citizenry, and they end up expediting the approval or authorization of the shots, and they push them out on the entire population. Problem was, initially, the COVID shots weren't even FDA approved. Instead, they were allowed or authorized under a whole different regulatory standard, and that standard was called emergency use authorization. And so the history of the emergency use authorization is actually really important because after the anthrax letter attacks, when the Department of Defense wasn't just canceling the anthrax vaccine program on their own, we actually took them to federal court, and we won in federal court. And the federal judge absolutely agreed. He cited our work about the improper licensure of the vaccine in what we call a citizen petition. It's a mechanism that the government provides for you to petition the government if you believe they're not doing their job properly. And we had filed a citizen petition in 2001. In 2002, the Food and Drug Administration had responded to us and agreed, you're right, the vaccine hasn't been properly finalized. We need to do that. They didn't. So in 2003, a federal judge ordered them to do it.
So, Colonel,
sure.
You know, this just gets back to what you said earlier. You said it took 10 years for them to make an acknowledgement inside the government, correct?
Correct. It took 10 years for the Bush administration to acknowledge there were problems, but unfortunately they were hoodwinked by the anthrax letter attacks, and they ended up resuscitating the anthrax vaccine program after those attacks.
So they eventually got what they wanted.
Yeah, the folks that created the bio incidents and created the fear, and capitalized on that fear, they got what they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, so this is me getting to the bottom of the machine itself and looking at the machine for what it is, the machine, right? That they didn't learn from their mistakes. They got caught in their mistakes. People put up a big enough stink. They had to be held to account for their mistakes or the things that they did to our service members. And this time, instead of just doing it to service members, by the time they got it out and got it rolling, they had created such a firestorm, almost like an avalanche going down the hill, forcing people to do it. You better. They kick them out. And now, because they're doing it on the private sector and the public sector, it left us in the same position you had with the anthrax virus, with the COVID vaccine. And now we're in the same justification that happened that they pushed through 2022 and 2023, saying, "Oh, now there's a new variant. Now there's a new, the same. It's almost identical. It's the same playbook." Would you call it the same playbook?
Yeah, absolutely the same playbook, and they basically were allowed to do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, there was no after-action report, no debrief, no lessons learned from anthrax. Had they done that, they probably would not have used the COVID countermeasures as they did, particularly not in a mandatory way, not with mandates. They were supposed to execute President Trump's 2018 National Biodefense Strategy. They didn't do that because the government was covering up the fact that it was a lab leak and it was a bio-incident. And as a result of trying to make it out as though it was of natural origins, they never implemented the National Biodefense Strategy, which would have brought many stakeholders together and ensured the development of countermeasures was not siloed and stovepiped. Unfortunately, they covered up the lab leak, and they didn't execute the National Biodefense Strategy, and they came up with a very vaccine-centric mandate scenario using emergency use authorized unapproved medical products. And that's the thing I just need to emphasize, that anthrax vaccine was the first ever emergency use authorized product. The only reason they had to apply the emergency use authorization to anthrax vaccine is because we got the program shut down via the federal courts because it was an unapproved medical product. So the only way you could offer it to our troops was on a strictly voluntary, no penalty basis using an emergency use authorization, because it was an unapproved medical product.
Okay, question for you. Here's a question for you. Who's adversely affected by not taking the anthrax vaccine? Who's at risk?
Nobody is at risk by not taking the anthrax vaccine. One of
By the way, I was poisoned with anthrax in December of 2022, right? A derivative of anthrax. So I know what the complications are as a result of it. It was at an event. So I'm very familiar with anthrax from the standpoint of the genome and how what makes it. But I'm saying if you don't take the vaccine for anthrax, the only person that is at risk is the person that doesn't take the vaccine for anthrax.
That's not true. So one of the lessons learned, had they done an after action report or a review, lesson learned, a debrief, is they would have discovered that anybody who takes simple antibiotics is able to treat themselves or be treated for the most lethal form of the disease, inhaled anthrax. Simple antibiotics, penicillin, doxycycline, Cipro. You take those in a timely manner, and you will be saved from being a fatality as a result of anthrax. That was the lesson learned from the anthrax litter attacks in 2001, and as a result, CDC and FDA recommend antibiotics, not anthrax vaccine. So nobody is at risk if they don't take anthrax vaccine.
Hold on, I think you misunderstood me. If you have anthrax and you're going to die of anthrax, and they say, okay, we're going to give you this vaccine. If you don't take the vaccine, who's at risk of dying?
So only the infected person. I guess that's where you're trying to go.
so I guess what I'm saying is the government spent all of this time on the anthrax vaccine saying, we want you have to take this, right? And by the way, doxycycline is the thing that saved my life. It also destroyed my gut, by the way. It was and that's the byproduct of anthrax is you have gut problems for years.
Yeah, gastrointestinal anthrax infection is another possible form, as is cutaneous. But the bottom line is antibiotics will save your life. The government acknowledges that, recommends antibiotics as the first line of treatment, does not recommend anthrax vaccine. And you're exactly right. It's not even a communicable disease, right? So unlike COVID, where they're inoculating with an emergency use authorized mRNA product, with anthrax vaccine, in inoculating people, you're not doing anything to protect anybody else. Well, and the vaccine is not even necessary because antibiotics are fully effective.
Yeah, I mean fully effective. So
correct.
when I was fed anthrax, literally fed anthrax, they basically sprayed it on food. We were at an event, it was a Clay Clark event. 2 people died. So a bunch of people got it. I put out the word that, hey, look, I got blood tested and they said that I have a derivative of anthrax in my blood. My doctor is the one that told me that there's something wrong. She's like, look, this doesn't sound like COVID. You already had COVID. And by the way, you have some weird co-symptoms. Go get a blood test. And she's like, you need to take doxycycline immediately. I mean, it was like almost immediate. She knew what the outcome was. And she was in the military for over 20 years. Also a colonel. And so my issue with this thing that they did to the government, that they did to you over these years, is that you said something very important, and that is it doesn't make sense, right? So if something doesn't make sense and they continue to do it for years, in this case, it took 10 years and a court order to get them to stop doing it, who's responsible for it? Who's behind it? Because it can't just be, there has to be some sensible people up the ranks, which means somebody had to come out with we just want to hurt our service members. It's diabolical almost. And I think we have to admit that the demonic part of this deal, call it what you want, evil, what I don't care what you call it, but everyone, Colonel, you're a really smart guy. You fly airplanes, right? You're not the smartest guy in the room. There's always somebody smarter. So that got up higher in the chain of command. Who did it? Who put the service members, who put our brothers and sisters in harm's way, and did so nefariously, knowing that this vaccine, in essence, did do harm?
there's so much accountability, responsibility to go around. There's so many guilty parties, primarily because of the willful blindness, despite the fact that service members, scientists, congressmen, Government Accountability Office, courts are saying it's unnecessary, it's illegal, it makes no doctrinal sense. They did it anyway. And there are, unfortunately, as we experienced with anthrax and as the entire country witnessed with COVID, it's on the verge of being diabolical and evil. There are biopharma defense interests that seem to be driving this stuff. They use fear as their mechanism, the emotive force, in order to get everybody to go along with it. And unfortunately, the people that have the power of the purse just keep authorizing billions and billions of dollars for these products. Anthrax vaccine in particular, even after the Bush administration recommended canceling it, they ended up procuring more. The Obama administration ended up procuring more. The Biden administration ended up procuring more. The bottom line is they've wasted billions and billions of dollars on a vaccine that expires every 3 years, stockpiling it in the strategic national stockpile. Nobody actually uses it. It all just expires. Still mandating it now, once again, now that it's back in a legal realm because they actually finally licensed it, they waste it and unnecessarily give it to our troops. There's a lot of forces, and unfortunately, I think money drives it, greed drives it. They are so invested in this biodefense countermeasure mentality. Fortunately they dropped some of it. There was a program called the Joint Vaccine Acquisition Program where in the late 90s they were actually planning on up to 75 biodefense vaccines. So based on our resistance in the late 90s, early 2000s, they shelved that. We do not have 75 biodefense vaccines for our troops because they realized none of it makes any sense. So they've wasted billions. They're going to continue to waste billions until our elected representatives finally put a cork in it and say, stop wasting the taxpayers' money on these countermeasures that probably don't work, are probably unsafe, and are not properly licensed, and are only causing a biodefense type escalatory situation with potential adversaries. And that was what the biodefense, the chemical and biological taboo was supposed to be all about. We're not going to go there because it's too escalatory in nature.
Okay, it's too, I think there's probably a lot of blame to go around. I like to fixate on problems, not the symptoms. The symptoms is that there was a lot of people that were apathetic to the idea that there were scientists and doctors that were telling us that this was a recommendation. And then those recommendations were then carried down through the ranks thinking, okay, I can trust these people. Well, years later, we found out we couldn't trust these people, and that they took away your basic right so not only do you have to put your life on the line and go fight for your country, now you have to fight for your life while you're fighting for your country against your own country that basically is putting you in harm's way. I get that right?
And so it's very disturbing. And over the years, I've just simply tried to get the military to hold itself to account, go back and correct the records for our troops. Fortunately, we've seen a couple different positive initiatives. Number one, in the 2018 timeframe during President Trump's first term, the White House actually did. I was working with White House officials, and they actually put forth a directive in order to get troops' records corrected related to anthrax vaccine. Unfortunately, President Trump's directive was never published. There was no outreach. They didn't even mention anthrax vaccine in the memo, and the Department of Defense officials basically undermined the attempt to do the right thing by President Trump and the White House. And there was just a few records that were corrected out of thousands of people that were punished. Now let's fast forward to present day. In the past year since President Trump has come in, they recognized that the COVID shot mandates were unlawful. And our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, has acknowledged, affirmed, admitted that the mandate was unlawful. President Trump has signed an executive order to do the right thing for that era of troops. These most recent veterans and current troops, correct their records, remedy their career setbacks, reinstate them, giving them back pay. There's some super courageous, passionate, unyielding troops that are actually working in the Trump and Hegseth Pentagon now, helping to coordinate these corrections for our troops, try to overcome the deep state interests that have been trying to slow roll the corrections. So a lot of positive stuff is happening. One thing I'm trying to always remind everybody about is, hey, in 2018, the corrections never actually happened for anthrax vaccine illegal mandate. And we need to go back and do that also. In the meantime, trying to help out these current troops and the administration with making sure they're correcting records for our COVID era veterans, which is great. They're creating all these incredible precedents. As recently as December 6th, earlier this month, Secretary of War Hegseth actually put out a memo that said, hey, not only are we going to take care of the troops that want to come back in that were wrongfully pushed out over COVID, I mean, up to 100,000 troops, 10,000 that are absolutely documented, directly related to COVID shots. And now they've acknowledged that there's about 4,000 that were given less than fully honorable discharges, and they are going to do a proactive review of those troops' records, and they are going to upgrade their discharges to fully honorable, which was music to my ears because for 25 years I've been asking them to do that very thing for anthrax era veterans. Proactive review, upgrade their discharges. There were thousands of people that were given less than honorable discharges, dishonorable discharges, less than honorable, bad conduct discharges, punishments, fines. Some of these kids were sent to jail. One was sentenced to 8 months in a military prison. And so we've gotten just a few of the records, like 3 of the records corrected. And I had some of these Biden administration holdovers ask me, well, can't these guys just go to the corrections boards and apply to have their records corrected? And my answer would be, well, they could, but they'd be denied, like has been happening for the last 2+ decades. And so we really need to do it automatically, proactively. We need to go and correct all of their records unilaterally. And now the Trump administration is actually doing that for our COVID era veterans. So I'm really proud of them. It sets an incredible precedent, and they need to do the same thing for anthrax era veterans.
Okay, so I have to bring this up because I know that, and maybe it's just the part of me that just has this barometer for justice. But what about the ones that were lost? How do you give them back their life? How do you give the ones that committed suicide? And look, I'm not saying that suicide's the answer, or that but there was many. And when I agreed to have you on this show, I need you to know that I have a friend whose dad committed suicide over the anthrax virus. So I was pissed back then, not understanding now. Like, go back 25 years, or not even 25 years. It wasn't even 25 years. It was 2000, right before 2001. He was forced into an environment where he had to take the vaccine. He chose not to. He did try to do it under, I think, religious or accommodations based on faith-based. I forget what they said. And he's listening, by the way, he's watching the show today. And because this morning I sent him something, I was like, hey, you probably need to know about this. This is pretty interesting. But his dad committed suicide. He was 24 years old, right? And disgraced. So how about the people lost? Because currently you can't give them back their life, right? I mean, this is a guy that was disgraced, that was kicked out of the military, and he was kicked out of the military. Like, he was a little bit more boisterous about it. Probably shouldn't have been, but took it to chain of command. They basically took away his rank. Did a bunch of stuff, and he was an officer, right? But he fought hard and lost, and then ultimately took his life because the military was his. It was his deal. It was his identity.
Yeah, it's very tragic. Not only during anthrax were there people that lost their lives due to medical complications from the
Yeah.
vaccine, but then just as with COVID, there were people that probably took their life as a result of the frustrations of the chain of command abandoning them. And so it's absolutely tragic. How does the government ever apologize for or make right those kinds of losses? Unfortunately, I'm not sure if it's really possible. But hopefully, the child, the son of that man, can learn about everything that has been accomplished subsequently. Can learn about the path for correction of records, and that young man, for his
He's not young
father.
anymore. I mean,
Okay,
he's my age.
right. Okay. So
We're way past young at this point.
I know. So the bottom line is there's a form called a DD Form 149, and that man, for his father, can apply for a record correction. It doesn't matter that his father's deceased. If his father was punished, had any kind of adverse personnel actions, had some kind of a less than fully honorable discharge, that child of that service member can apply on that service member's behalf, even though it's after their life ended. They can absolutely get their records corrected. And so for your friend, I would recommend that they apply to the Department of Defense to get their father's discharge upgraded, and I can almost guarantee you that they will do it. One of the standards for upgrading discharges is simply the passage of time. So not only was the program patently illegal and the Department of Defense violated the law, and that service member never should have been kicked off, never should have been put in that untenable situation where it later led to the tragic, circumstances. But at a minimum, a compassionate government and Department of Defense could go back and send that family a fully honorable discharge certificate. So that would be my suggestion for them. I know it's just administrative, it's paperwork, but it might console that family to a certain extent.
There was also, I mean, they did the same thing that they did with COVID for this as well. You had numerous deaths, and a regular number of numerous deaths that occurred post getting the vaccine. Get the vaccine, 2 days later, they die of a heart attack. 2 days later, they die of complications. You had this thing called the help me, Stevenson syndrome. Stevenson syndrome. Is that right? Are you familiar with that? One of the adverse reactions.
Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar to me. There's all kinds of syndromes like Guillain-Barré, and yeah, there's a variety of autoimmune illness type, medical malfunctions that occur.
My friend just sent it to me. Stevens-Johnson syndrome.
Okay.
Aplastic anemia. But they said that there was numerous. You had people that came forward in mass numbers. A little bit different than giving it to the entire population of the country, right? Because obviously, in the country, you probably have. It's been estimated that there's 300,000 deaths as a result of the vaccine. Right. In the military, I think that at the time it was 25 to 35,000 people that people were touting as a number of deaths. But they did the same thing then in saying that they can't conclusively link the deaths to the vaccine, even though you had normally healthy, athletic men and women that were adversely affected by having to take it.
Yeah, that's just so ridiculous. They did the same thing with anthrax. They make sure they don't study it so that they can say there's no conclusive evidence that there's any connection. And so they did the same thing. It's just all gobbledygook, and it's totally dishonorable, totally disingenuous. The American people can see right through it at this point.
All right. So tell us what the book traces back to. What does the book give us? That lessons learned and that we can use to fight in the future, because this is going to come up again. And right. I asked you the simple question on who was behind it, because we never, it's like watching the Wizard of Oz. We got all the way to the castle. We pulled back the curtain and there's this little midget demon back there making decisions, but we haven't been able to figure out who it is.
Yeah, it's the conclusion of it's in my estimation, it's best case scenario, it's money, greed. Worst case scenario, it is a foreign and or traitorous nation state or faction within intentionally trying to reduce military preparedness. That's not that I don't have any. It's one to me. It's one of the because as you
Gotta
said,
be
Joe,
bigger than that.
there's always someone smarter in the room. So I don't think they're stupid. So it's money or sabotage. Sorry.
Yeah, and you ask about the book because I saw it all happening all over again with COVID. I actually responded to RFK Jr. and Children's Health Defense and assisted them with drafting a citizen petition because we'd had success with ours in 2001, 2002 timeframe leading up to the injunction against the anthrax vaccine. We put forth a citizen petition in 2021, just prior to the mandates, basically warning the government to not impose mandates with emergency use authorized products. They didn't listen. They did it anyway. The mandates were a disaster. Overruled by the Supreme Court, a variety of appellate level courts. Biden administration rescinds all mandates, tries to moot all the cases because they know perfectly well they are breaking the law. And so at this point, we're fortunate that the Trump administration came in, very anti-mandate, despite being proud initially of the Project Warp Speed. I think that the Trump administration was misled about a lot of aspects of the countermeasures. But the good news is they were not pro-mandate. They didn't, advance mandates at all. As a matter of fact, the Department of Defense didn't initially have a mandate when they acknowledged the drug products that were available were all emergency use authorized. And emergency use authorized drug products are produced on an expedited basis. There is a lower regulatory requirement, different regulatory scheme. I mean, literally much of the manufacturing is not even inspected. The products just rolled out and they have a lower standard, what they call a reasonable assumption of efficacy and safety versus proven, which is amazing because I've done some deep dives into drug regulatory, vaccine regulatory history over the course of the past literally 100 years, and drugs laws always became more stringent and more stringent and more stringent until 2005 in overcoming the anthrax vaccine injunction. And in order to offer that unapproved medical product to the troops on a strictly voluntary basis, they came up with a law that was actually less stringent, only reasonably safe, not proven safe. First time in 100 years of U.S. drug history. So it's just absolutely amazing. They've gone in reverse. And fortunately, the Trump administration is hopefully putting the brakes on that. RFK Jr., who I assisted with doing the citizen petition for, now our Department of Health and Human Services secretary, running the FDA, running the CDC, and another group of citizens, Sasha Latipova and Children's Health Defense have put forth another similar citizen petition asking for the same thing: take these products off the market. And so hopefully the current leadership under RFK will actually do that. They'll actually listen and respond to this citizen petition. Why have mechanisms like a citizen petition if the government's not going to listen to you? They didn't listen to us with anthrax, but fortunately the judicial branch did, cited our citizen petition, and shut the illegal anthrax vaccine program down. So fortunately, I'm very positive about the Trump administration, RFK, the methodical changes that they're making, and I fully expect that in time they'll revoke the mRNA products from the marketplace, the COVID shots. And fortunately, they put in a lot of limitations, whether it's Hep B or other childhood vaccine schedules or recommendations for the COVID shots. They are methodically trying to turn this steamliner around. So rather than letting the American people get steamrolled with these fundamentally unsafe, ineffective, often illegal shots.
Okay, so let's hypothetically say they get rid of the mRNA. We're still looking at a vaccine schedule, if you date it back to 1986, that is pretty pretty extensive. And if you want to just, again, they don't study it, so you don't understand it. But if you look at comorbidities and you look at death rates associated with diseases such as cancer, they've gone up. Well, since 1986, they've gone up 2,115%.
Right.
In cancers.
Incredible explosion of vaccines, particularly for children, ever since the laws in the 1986 timeframe changed and offered immunity to the manufacturers. And so therefore, vaccines became this incredible cottage industry where pharmaceutical companies could sell a product to the United States government, get it included on the children's shot schedule, and have zero liability. What a business plan. That is directly why there's this incredible explosion of the number of vaccines given to children and the American public. And you mentioned, I think you mentioned that there wasn't any science exposing that. There's a lot of science exposing the problems, and RFK Jr. And the government have now committed to going back and actually analyzing the full childhood vaccine schedule and compare it to our other allies, other developed countries, and find out why are they mandating so many fewer vaccines, and does it really make sense to have so many shots on the child schedule? So I think we are going to see change. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen as quickly as we want, but I think we are going to see change.
Okay, it's not going to happen as quickly as we want. Colonel, let me ask you a question. If your house is on fire, do you wait a couple weeks to get a hose out and try to spray it out and put the fire out?
So to answer your question, you run away from the house, right? And so while some people on the other side are concerned about vaccine hesitancy, that's exactly what it is. There's a burning house and people are running away from it. So even if they don't reduce the childhood vaccine schedule, the bad behavior is so documented at this point and has lost the trust and faith of the American public that people are running away from it. There is, record vaccine hesitancy. People are being smarter about what they're actually allowing their children to receive. And so I think that's your point is, when there's a fire, you avoid it. And that's what people are doing. And hopefully the government follows suit and actually justifies their decisions.
So the people are making their own decisions now. And so the government is basically boxing them in, which is what they did in the COVID vaccine, right?
Well, the government is going to end up creating studies that end up justifying the citizens' decisions to not take the vaccines, because the future, hopefully more honest science is going to come out peer-reviewed and published. I mean, it's already there. Unfortunately, much of it hasn't been government sponsored. So future science by the government is going to tell the truth. And so I don't think the government's going to box in people as far as encouraging them or making them take vaccines. I think if anything, it's going to, the government's opening up its aperture and is going to make sure that pharmaceutical companies put out safe and effective products, or get them off the schedule if they're not proven to be safe and effective, and get emergency use authorized products off of any schedule as well. And so I think ultimately people's decisions are going to become more and more vindicated, validated. I don't think the government's boxing them in. I think the government's going to be verifying people's vaccine hesitancy choices.
Do you have? I mean, you're very measured. I mean, you're very measured. You're obviously very articulate. By the way, I met my wife. She was a pilot. She went to Embry-Riddle. She was a pilot. She taught me to fly, and then I married her. That was almost 24 years ago. Super smart. So from being a pilot standpoint, I know that you have a very calm demeanor, right? Just how do you stay so calm knowing the damage that's been done?
Yeah, and for me, it's been witnessing it for almost 30 years. So in order to not become resentful, in order to not bang your head against the wall, you do have to find a path to be measured and calm. And fortunately, I've had these incredible examples of elected representatives and other leaders, whether it's H. Ross Perot, Senator Blumenthal when he was our Attorney General.
I voted for Perot.
Yeah. And so H. Ross Perot was a true hero. I call him an integrity system hero. It's a term that Dr. Philip Zimbardo, famous from the Stanford Prison Experiment, he coined that term, integrity system hero. So H. Ross Perot during Anthrax was our integrity system hero. RFK Jr. during COVID is their integrity system hero for these current COVID era veterans, as is President Trump. These are integrity system heroes. So I always try to find inspiration from the fact that there are people that are doing the right thing and there are positive things that are happening. We have this one gentleman, the only armed forces service member, Lieutenant Mark Bashow, that was court-martialed by the Army, the only one during COVID court-martialed. And President Trump and Secretary of War Hegseth, they've reversed it all. They've given him a promotion. They brought him back on board in the military, back pay, promoted him, and to make sure that he was able to continue his career and now help other service members rejoin the military. So just an absolute farce that they would court-martial this guy. Ironic that one of the Vindman brothers was the prosecutor that had this very political prosecution of this Army soldier in order to try to make it, basically scare everybody into compliance. And so this guy stood tall. Really impressive, inspirational story. I say that it's akin to Billy Mitchell and starting the United States Air Force Army officer who challenged military leadership at the time in the pre-World War II timeframe, and it led to literally the creation of the United States Air Force because he was promoting air power. That guy got court-martialed, and ultimately it all got overturned. So Mark Bashow is our modern-day Billy Mitchell, the only guy court-martialed, stood tall, but the Trump administration and Secretary Hegseth reversing it all. And so the guy's a hero. So there's a bunch of examples like that. He's just symbolic of many people in this COVID era, many service members that are getting their records corrected. There's a bunch of truly inspirational stories. One of the service members is actually a part of leading the task force in order to do an after action report, do that debrief. And so that's the important thing is I think at least with this administration, they are trying to make sure we document what happened. That should go all the way back to Anthrax. It should lead to record corrections for Anthrax era veterans as well, because Anthrax, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the unlawfulness of the COVID shots. Patently unlawful. I mean, they knew what they were doing was illegal, and they did it anyway. Even though they constructed a military mandated order, the actual memo was technically illegal. The implementation of the order was absolutely illegal. So they broke the law, and we currently have an administration that is putting people in place, like one service member who's actually going to be leading this after action review. Hopefully, it actually ends up resulting in Anthrax era corrections as well, because anthrax vaccine was actually illegal, unapproved medical product. There was no EUA. They were absolutely giving troops an experimental drug product that violated 10 U.S.C. 1107. Then later on, they gave it the emergency use authorization after it was found to be illegal. And then that's the same law, 1107A, that they violated with the COVID troops. So it's just this pattern of willful law breaking. And fortunately, Trump administration is putting the brakes on all of it and hopefully holding people accountable. That's really the only way that you're going to, make sure this never happens again. But the consolation prize is correcting all the records of all the troops. It's the least they can do. And hopefully there'll be a next generation of military leaders that won't look the other way. It's interesting. There's recently been a debate out there in the public spaces about illegality of orders, and I think it's really healthy that we're actually talking about military illegal orders. We're talking about.
All right, we're gonna go. Colonel, I'm gonna come back to you, but we have President Trump that just got on the stage, so I'm gonna have us sit on the side. Put it up, please. Let's go to him really quick and let's listen to President Trump. Oh, guys. Now, refresh it.
We've gotten old and tired and
Volume.
obsolete, and we're going to go the exact opposite direction. We're delighted to be joined by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, who's doing a fantastic job, and Secretary of the Navy John Phelan. Marco Rubio is here, who gave a great few words toward the end of last week. He spoke for a couple of hours on what a good job we're doing, which is true. As Commander-in-Chief, it's my great honor to announce that I have approved a plan for the Navy to begin the construction of two brand new, very large, the largest we've ever built, battleships. You know, you used to build the Iowa, the Missouri, the Wisconsin, the Alabama, many others. We had big battleships. These are bigger, but they will have 100 times they'll be 100 times the force, the power, and there's never been anything like these ships. These have been under design consideration for a long time, and it started with me in my first term, because I said, why aren't we doing battleships like we used to? And these are the best in the world. They'll be the fastest, the biggest, and by far 100 times more powerful than any battleship ever built. So if you look at the Iowa, the Missouri, Wisconsin, Alabama, and others, but they were similar in size, some a little bit bigger than the others, but if you take the biggest one, it's 100 times more powerful. They're longer by a little bit, but and they're bigger ships, but they hold much more. They use the word lethality. Battleships are the largest, sturdiest, and most heavily armed vessel built specifically for naval combat. While America has built many new warships over the years, they've tended to be smaller and much smaller, and not conducive to where we are and where we're going, and peace through strength. But including, we've been building aircraft carriers. We're going to be upping that also. We're going to be going to a superior aircraft. We have the Ford class. We're going to be upping that to a different class of aircraft carrier. And we haven't built a battleship since 1994. These cutting-edge vessels will be some of the most lethal surface warfare ships. They will be actually the most ever built other than our submarines. We have submarines which will have, in many ways, even more lethality, and we have many of them under construction. Each one of these will be the largest battleship in the history of our country, the largest battleship in the history of the world ever built. And again, it's 100 times more powerful than the previous Iowa class, it's called. Those are the big ones that you'd see on a show. Victory at Sea. I don't know if anyone's seen Victory at Sea, but it was a classic. They'll help maintain American military supremacy, revive the American shipbuilding industry, and inspire fear in America's enemies all over the world. We want respect. We're going to have it. We already have it. We're more respected now than we ever were. A year and a half ago, they laughed at us. Now they respect us again at levels that they've never respected us. We envision that these two ships, we're talking about 10, but we're going to start with 2, and we're going to quickly morph into 10. And ultimately, we think it's going to be anywhere from 20 to 25 of these. But we're starting with the first 2 immediately, and we're going to then be very quickly involved with, I think, we're going to do another 8. And then we're going to ultimately and pretty quickly have a total of about 20 to 25. We'll make that determination. We envision that these ships will be the first of a whole new class of battleships to be produced in the years to come. From Theodore Roosevelt, the Great White Fleet, you remember that, the Great White Fleet, to the legendary USS Missouri, whose massive guns helped win World War II. America's battleships have always been unmistakable symbols of national power. We stopped making them for whatever reason, I don't know. And I want to congratulate John Phelan, who is your secretary of the Navy. He came to me the first day we met. He talked about battleships, and I said, you're absolutely on the right track. He said, why are we doing other things? We have missiles, which are much more expensive. By the way, these battleships have tremendous numbers of missiles, but they also have guns. And in many ways, guns can do the trick just as well as missiles at a tiny fraction of the cost. Once completed, these new 30 to 40,000 ton plus vessels will be the flagships of the American naval fleet, and there has never been anything built like them. And I just want to be very clear that we're building them here. We're working with others, but we're building them here. We have great Navy yards. We'll be negotiating with some of the companies that are running those yards, taking over the yards. We used to build a ship a day during World War II. Now we don't do ships very much anymore. We do military ships, we do submarines. By the way, we're 15 to 20 years advanced in our submarines over anybody else. That was one of the things that I did in my first term. We make the best submarines by far in the world. We're at least 15 years advanced ahead of anybody else in submarine development. Most powerful, that's right, the most powerful weapon anywhere in the world, undetectable. So the battleships are going to be armed just in terms of guns and missiles at the highest level. They'll also have hypersonic weapons, many hypersonic weapons, state-of-the-art electric rail guns, and even the high-powered lasers that you've been starting to read about. We have lasers where you aim the laser at a target, it just wipes it out. We're going to have, there'll be the most sophisticated lasers in the world, and the most sophisticated laser in the world will be on the battleships that we're building. They'll also carry the nuclear armed, sea-launched cruise missiles currently under development, which will be instituted pretty quickly, but they're under development and they've proven to be extremely lethal. The U.S. Navy will lead the design of these ships along with me, because I'm a very aesthetic person, alongside our partners in American industry, and we're going to have Pete Hegseth and Marco and a lot of very talented people involved, but a lot of it's already been done. We've been doing this for months. The construction will create thousands of American jobs. We're going to have the jobs be created. I mean, already we have factories being built unrelated to this, although AI will be a big factor when it comes to these ships. They'll be very AI controlled. Today's announcement is yet another step in our mission to make the United States Navy stronger than ever before. Again, when you talk about 100 times the power of these massive ships that we had years ago, it's pretty amazing. And next week I'm going to meet with the defense prime contractors. I'm going to meet with them here, Florida. And we're going to be talking about production schedules because they're too slow. We have many countries, allies, that are wanting to buy. We make the greatest equipment in the world by far. Nobody's even close, but they don't produce them fast enough. So we're going to be meeting with them to talk about the production schedules. We're going to have strong production schedules. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is to build new plants. Even with the F-35, we have many people who want the F-35 fighter jet, and it takes too long to deliver them to allies or to ourselves. It takes too long. The only way they're going to be able to deliver them is if they build new plants. They don't want to build new plants because that's expensive. So we're going to be discussing production schedules. We're going to be discussing CapEx spending. We'll be discussing the pay to executives where they're making $45 and $50 million a year and not being able to build quickly. They're going to make that kind of money. They have to build quickly. Again, we make the best equipment in the world, but they don't make them fast enough. And we're going to be also discussing dividends. We want the dividends to go into the creation of production facilities. So we'll be talking about all CapEx, dividends, and the pay. We're also going to be talking about buybacks. They spend so much money on buybacks. They want to buy back their stock. I don't want them to buy back their stock. I want them to put the money in plant and equipment so they can build these planes fast, rapidly, like immediately. I mean, I have sold more planes than any president by far, times probably 20. So every time I go someplace, I sell 100 planes. That includes commercial planes, Boeings, et cetera, but it also includes fighter jets. And I'm always having to say 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Helicopters, Apache helicopters, many years. India bought them. They want to get them. They don't want to wait a long time. So we don't want to have executives making $50 million a year, issuing big dividends to everybody, and also doing buybacks. And then they say, well, we don't have the money to build the plant. They got to build plants. Plants to make F-35s, plants to make helicopters, plants to make the F-47 new jet. And that's it. And that's what I'm going to be talking to them about. They're going to start spending money on building airplanes and ships and the things that we need, not in 10 years and 15 years. We need them now. And we're strong about it. Last week, the Navy announced a brand new class of frigate, and they're going to be working with the South Korean company. Hanwha, a good company, recently agreed to invest $5 billion in Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. We're opening up the Philadelphia Shipyard, once a great yard. Now it was a long time ago decommissioned, but now it's reopening. Working with the Navy and working with private companies. The record-setting defense bill I signed last week authorized $26 billion to build new ships, including destroyers and various others. We already have a lot of submarines, as you know, under construction. We're building a lot of submarines. I tell you, to be exact, we have right now 15 submarines under construction or ready to start. And we have, again, the greatest submarine in the world with our technology, like they talk about chips. Well, I would say submarines are a bigger deal than chips. We're at least 15 years ahead of any other competitor. China, Russia, nobody can come close. We're also building right now 3 large aircraft carriers in addition to the ones we have. And we have, actually, interestingly, we have a lot of submarines. How many submarines do we have now altogether, approximately? Huh? What?
Over 30.
We have over 30. But these are the super duper subs, and there's nothing like them. So we're going to be doing from 12 to 15 brand new submarines. We have a couple of other things going on. We'll be building other elements of Navy. We'll be fixing up headquarters. We'll be fixing up places for our great sailors to live. And we're going to be working very hard with companies, but we're also going to be penalizing companies that aren't doing a good job. For instance, when they built the Ford, Gerald Ford, the cost overruns were ridiculous. That was done in Norfolk, Virginia. We're going to be talking about that with that company. The cost overruns were out of control. In World War II, the United States built upwards of 4 ships per day. Can you believe it? 4 ships a day, on average. And now there weren't all big warships, but there were ships, freighters, tankers. And it's a tragedy that we allowed this incredible capability to just go astray. We don't do that much anymore. We do build our warships, but that's about it. But that's a lot. We're going to restore America as a major shipbuilding power. We're going to ensure the USA is the most powerful fleet anywhere in the world, and long into the future, with battleships helping lead the way, and the submarines that, again, nobody competes with us on submarines. So I just want to thank everybody, and I'd like to ask Secretary Hegseth to say a few words, followed by the Secretary, but if you would, Secretary of the Navy. But Pete's doing a fantastic job. By the way, we have drugs are down 96.2% coming into the United States. 92.6 by sea. And soon we'll be starting the same program on land. The land is much easier. But every one of those boats that we knocked out saved 25,000 lives. So we saved 25,000 lives every time we knock out one of those boats with the drugs pouring in. And you just have to see it. I mean, people say, oh, gee, do you think it was really drugs? Well, just take a look. Bags all over the place. That's not fishing equipment. There's no fishing rods on those boats. They move fast. When you see a boat with 4 engines or 5 engines on, going 40, 50 miles an hour, well, they get hit. We save 25,000 lives every single time we knock out a boat, and it's over 96% stopped by sea. We're trying to figure out who the other 4% are, frankly. And we're going to have the same success, but even quicker, because it's much easier on land. If they want to come by land, they're going to end up having a big problem. They're going to get blown to pieces, because we don't want our people poisoned. 300,000 people died, probably last year 300,000. A lot of people say it was 200. Somebody said last night it was only 175,000 people. That's like 3 stadiums, big football stadiums filled up with people died. But I think the real number is 300,000. We're not going to have that anymore. So we're doing a great job, and we enjoy doing it. Our border is secure. Our country is strong. Trillions of dollars is coming into our country from other countries and companies. They're building factories and plants, including auto plants, all over the United States of America. Without tariffs, they wouldn't be doing anything, although they were very happy with the November 5th election. But it's only because they want to avoid paying tariffs that they're all coming in. And again, the biggest number was $3 trillion in history. That was China many years ago. Now it's $18 trillion, and that's just in 10 months. We think we could hit $20 trillion. That's investment in the United States, including plant and equipment. So thank you very much, and I'll ask Pete to say a few words, and then John. And if you have any questions, we'll take them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, Mr. President, you're exactly right. There are no fishing poles, no fishermen, and no fishing boats. Just drug dealers and narco-terrorists. And with every strike, we're saving American lives. No other president was willing to do real deterrence. That's exactly what's happening. It's an honor to be here, Mr. President, Mr. Secretary, Secretary Rubio, to talk about what peace through strength really looks like. You can talk about it, or you can invest in it, and you can build it. And that's exactly what President Trump is doing. At the Department of War, we're restoring the warrior ethos. In fact, the President mentioned the NDAA. We put into law merit-based. We put into law getting rid of DEI and political correctness. That's now part of how our military operates. And you've seen it in record recruiting in the spirit at the Department of War. We're rebuilding the military. President Trump did it once. He's doing again with historic investments today in shipbuilding. And we're reestablishing deterrence, whether that's at the border, whether it's through Golden Dome, what happened with Midnight Hammer and what Iran found out, those drug boats, and of course the Houthis opening up the shipping lanes. American strength is back on the world stage. And the announcement of the Golden Fleet, anchored by new battleships, the biggest and most lethal ever, accomplishes all 3 of those things and marks a generational commitment to American sea power. Across the entire department, we are developing new operational concepts, deploying cutting-edge technologies, and making major investments, including in our Navy. This is happening in all domains, including space, as the President has talked about before anyone else. So it's the highest of domains and the lowest of domains under sea, and especially today in sea power, that always has to be decisive, has been in the history of America, and will continue to be under the leadership of President Trump. We will make sure that anything that flows from our country and with our allies flows freely and uncontested. New and better ships will provide that deterrent today and for generations to come. This new class, these new investments, will be the types of things that for decades, for centuries, the American people will look back and thank President Trump for having the vision and the willingness to invest right now in capabilities we need today, tomorrow, and long into the future. So, Mr. President, thank you for this investment, and I'll hand it over now to the Navy Secretary.
Mr. President, Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Rubio, thank you for being here on a very consequential day. From my very first conversation with President Trump about serving as the Secretary of the Navy, he's talked about the great Iowa-class battleship and why America doesn't build ships anymore with that kind of offensive firepower that takes the fight to the enemy. During my time in the job, I've talked extensively with our combatant commanders, like Admiral Paparo and Admiral Cooper, and our CNO, Admiral Cottle. And what I've learned is that not only is the President's idea a good one, it's something that Navy desperately needs and now has a formal requirement for. The future Trump-class battleship, the USS Defiant, will be the largest, deadliest, and most versatile and best-looking warship anywhere on the world's oceans. I want to thank the President for his vision to make this game-changing capability for the United States Navy. The Iowa was designed to go on the attack with the biggest guns, and that's exactly what will define the Trump-class battleships: offensive firepower from the biggest guns of our era. This ship isn't just to swat the arrows. It is going to reach out and kill the archers. And for the first time in generations, we'll have a new leg in America's nuclear deterrence, because the Trump-class battleship will carry the nuclear-armed, sea-launched cruise missile. Striking dominance isn't all that the Trump-class battleship brings to the fight at sea. It has the size and capacity to serve as a flagship for our fleet commanders so that they can command and control naval forces far out to sea. As shown in the series, and the President mentioned it, Victory at Sea, Admirals Bull Halsey and Raymond Spruance commanded the war in the Pacific from their battleship flagships during World War II. Now this new battleship will command everything from warships to drones and everything in between. We're going to make battle groups great again. And this is just one piece of the President's golden fleet that we're going to build with the investments he talked about. A new frigate, the right frigate, the one our warfighters have told us they need. More amphibious power for our Marines with new capabilities like the medium landing ship. As part of the Navy's high-low mix, we're moving out aggressively on unmanned vessels with funding from the President's One Big Beautiful Bill to bring options to the fight and pull new, non-traditional defense partners into the American shipbuilding ecosystem. And we're making a generational investment in support ships. Logistics wins wars, and that kind of shipbuilding is the spark that will ignite the industrial base and help power the commercial shipbuilding that the President has called for. Under your leadership, Mr. President, we will have more tonnage and firepower under construction than ever before in our history. Building the President's Golden Fleet means jobs across the United States now. There'll be work for shipyards everywhere, from Philadelphia to San Diego, from Maine to Mississippi, from the Great Lakes to the Gulf Coast, and for manufacturers that will build components for this battleship in every state. The President has been clear. We must bring back our American maritime industrial might. And he has told me many times that as Secretary of the Navy, it is my job to equip our sailors to win the fight at sea with the finest ships in our history. To conclude, the USS Defiant battleship will inspire awe and reverence for the American flag whenever it pulls into a foreign port. It will be a source of pride for every American when it brings home our brave sailors who will sail defiant, raise their fists, and say, "We are peace through strength." And our adversaries will know when the Trump-class USS Defiant appears on the horizon, American victory at sea is inevitable. Thank you, Mr. President. Now when a conflict arises, you are going to ask not one, but two questions. Where are the carriers and where are the battleships? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I just want to mention that John Phelan is one of the most successful businessmen in the country, in our country. It's been a tremendous success, and he wanted to do this, and for nothing. He's taken probably the largest salary cut in history, but he wanted to do it. He wants to rebuild our Navy, and you needed that kind of a brain to do it properly. So I just wanted to give you a little information on him, which is probably enough. But one of the most successful men in the country, and he's that because he understands it, and he understands finance in addition to what we're talking about. Somebody who's doing a fantastic job is Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. And Marco, maybe say a few words, and then we'll answer some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I don't have much to add. This is a phenomenal presentation. Thank you, Mr. President. This is American industrial power returning. This is the ability, once again, to rebuild to have industry in the United States. This is generational in the change, not just in terms of applying American war power, increasing our ability to protect the seas. The U.S. Navy is the single biggest source of peace in the world of all of our forces because it gives us a global footprint. But it rebuilds American industrial capacity. The ability to make things again in our country has been critical to what the President's agenda has been all about, and this is a tangible reminder of it. And I know the country's grateful for it, and generations of Americans will be grateful for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Marco. By the way, I think I'd just like to point out that these ships are made of steel as opposed to aluminum. It's a big difference, as you know. The battleships, the great battleships, had 6- and 7-inch steel hulls, and these are going to be likewise made out of very powerful steel. Our steel industry is coming back very strongly, by the way. It's coming back at record numbers, and we're going to be using them for the steel, but as opposed to an aluminum side, which, in all fairness, is not the same. So, John, we're going with all steel, I understand. And that's going to be something that people are surprised. More expensive, but not even comparable in terms of the importance and the strength. Yeah, please.
What's your timetable for these first two ships? And do you see them as a counter to China?
We're going to start almost immediately, and we'll probably talk in about 2.5 years.
And in terms of the mission, do you see it as a counter to China?
It's a counter to everybody. It's not China. We get along great with China. I have a great relationship with President Xi, and not China. It's just everybody. You don't know who comes along, but we just wanted peace through strength. Hopefully we never have to use them, but there will never be anything built like these. Think of it. Those battleships are incredible. These have 100 times the power. Think of that. I mean, and they were big and they were powerful. You know, I thought about taking some that are in dry dock and changing them. And then when I said that, you know, if we did, would be about, we could increase, if we doubled them, they'd be at like just a tiny fraction of what one of these was. This is the new technology, which is incredible. So we decided pretty early on not to do that. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, Julio Rosas with Most Peaceful Media. You just referenced the lower amount of illegal drugs that are coming by sea, and you just said that you're going to start that same program on land soon. Are you just referring to Venezuela, or are you referring to other countries in Latin America?
Anywhere drugs are pouring in, anywhere, not just Venezuela. No. Yes.
Speaking of Venezuela, oil. What are we going to do with the oil that we have?
Going to do with what?
The oil that has been seized. The United States seized 1.9 million barrels of oil on December 10th.
We're going to keep it. We're keeping it.
Where's it? Are we going to sell it or put it in the strategic?
Maybe we'll sell it. Maybe we'll keep it. Maybe we'll use it in the strategic reserves. We're keeping it. We're keeping the ships also. Yeah, please.
About Venezuela, sir, have you spoken to American oil companies that have had their assets seized about what a post-Maduro Venezuela would mean for them, of what coming back and restarting operations?
The big ones, yeah. I have. Yeah, please.
Why do you feel like this initiative was neglected for so many years, and does this come amidst the rising tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela?
We're talking about with Venezuela?
Yes.
Well, you had a different kind of a president before me. They didn't mind being ripped off. They didn't mind being robbed. They didn't mind drugs pouring into our country. They didn't mind the jails of Venezuela and Trinidad being emptied into the U.S., where they take over Colorado and other places. I do mind. So you had a different kind of a president. I hope people are enjoying it because we've never been respected more than we are now. Yeah, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full...
What?
And were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full release by the end of the year? Some of the victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, you know, but I think it's terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So they're giving their photos of me too. Everybody was friendly with this guy, either friendly or not friendly. But he was around. He was all over Palm Beach and other places. The head of Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers, and Bill Clinton was a friend of his. But everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago, and as a as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. Mar-a-Lago, this is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place I think it's the hottest place in the world, but it's the hottest place in Florida. And everybody would come here, he'd come here. We actually threw him out. But no, I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. I think Bill Clinton's a big boy, he can handle it, but you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein years ago, many years ago, and they're, highly respected bankers and lawyers and others, and they'll end up, because of guys like Massey, who's a real lowlife, whose polls are down to about 9%, by the way, in the great state of Kentucky. If you look at Kentucky, Kentucky is such a great place, but I don't know, they've got a couple of people in there that are very strange in terms of leadership, but Massey's a loser, and he likes it, and that he works with the Democrats. He's just being used by the Democrats, because what this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has. Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished. I believe they gave over 100,000 pages of documents, and there is tremendous backlash. It's an interesting question, because a lot of people are very angry that pictures are being released of other people that really had nothing to do with Epstein, but they're in a picture with him because he was at a party, and you ruin a reputation of somebody. So a lot of people are very angry that this continues. A lot of Republicans are angry because of the fact that it's just used to deflect against a tremendous success. Look, we have $18 trillion coming into our country. We have, I believe, we're going to have the most successful economy in history. We inherited a mess. Now prices are coming way down. Gasoline is less than $2 in some states, $1.99, $1.97, $1.95 a gallon. $1.95. Think of that. A gallon. Nobody ever thought they'd see that. They don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about Epstein. And the problem is a lot of Democrats are being caught up in the web, like Larry Summers. Larry Summers was the head of Harvard. He's now been forced to resign from every board he's on, and he was thrown off the Harvard board. Now he was at Epstein's Island a lot. I wasn't. I never went there, by the way. But fortunately, it's nice. But I never went there. But a lot of people did go there. But instead of talking about the battleships, or instead of talking about most favored nations drugs, we're bringing down drug prices like at a level that has never even been thought of, by thousands. Think of it, by 1,000%, by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400% in some cases. A drug that sells for $10 in London is costing $130 in New York. We're bringing it down to $20, and they're going to go up to 20. So they're going from 10 to 20, which is a doubling. It's a doubling. That's a lot, but it's a doubling. But we're going down to 20. So we're going down, if you can do your own math, but it's 2,000%, 3,000%. It's pretty amazing. And the New York Times had a story about it, a small story, way in the back of the paper. It's the single biggest thing to happen with respect to drugs probably in 50 years. It's never been anything like this. In my first term, I was able to get drug prices down 0.25%. It's the first time in 28 years that they went down. 0.25%. I was so proud of myself. Now we're doing them 2,000%, 1,500%, 1,200%. That pill that sold for $130 will now be selling, as an example, for $20, because the rest of the world took advantage of us. Without tariffs, I could have never done it. I called up the heads of the countries, as an example. France, I spoke to a very good man, President Macron of France, and I said, Emmanuel, you have to raise your drug prices. He said, no, we will not do that. I said, you have to. He said, no, I don't want to do that. Look, you're asking me if it go to $10 to $20, you're going to come way down to 20. We don't want to do that. Now, in all fairness, no other president even tried. But if they did try, there was actually a fake story in stupid USA Today. I didn't even think they make it anymore. I haven't. But I saw a story where Biden was trying to do this. Biden never tried to do it. Biden didn't know he was alive. He never tried to do it. But they're taking it from $10 to $20. So he would say, and the other leader said the same thing. No, we won't do it. I said, no, you're going to do it 100%. They said, nope, we're not doing it. We're not going to double our price. Because, again, if you go from $10 to $20, they're doubling their price. We're coming down, though, from $130 to $20 because we're going to get the lowest drug prices in the world. Whatever the lowest price is called favored nations, we're going to have the lowest price. So I said, no, you're going to. No, I will not do this. Politically, it's unacceptable. I said, Emmanuel, you're going to do it 100%. Please accept it now. Be nice. You're going to do it 100%. No, I will not. I said, yes, you are. He said, why do you keep telling me I am when I'm not? Because if you don't do it, I'm going to put a 25% tariff on everything France sells into the United States of America. And that's approximately 20 times more than I'm asking for with respect to drug prices. He said, I see. I agreed to do it. Every other country said the exact same thing. They all said, nope, I will not do it. I said, all right, on Monday morning, you'll have the 25% tariff, everything you sell. In the case of France, it was wine, champagne, cars, everything they sell. It's 25 to 30 times the price of what we're talking about, at 25%. Every single country agreed. And that was a big problem. The drug companies were difficult, but fine, because we have a certain control over the drug companies. We had no control over these foreign nations. So every single country has agreed to do this. So we will take that pill price down as an example, talking about not just pills, we're talking about everything. We'll take it down from $130 a pill down to $20 a pill. And the rest of the world will take it from $10 a pill up to $20. It's the biggest thing ever to happen, and it's barely covered in the New York Times because it's a fake newspaper. Yeah.
Mr. President, on shipbuilding, how is the administration plan to ensure that there's sufficient workforce availability as you're producing these ships?
Could you speak up?
How does the administration plan to ensure there is sufficient workforce availability as you're producing these ships?
We're going to have it. We're going to have tremendous workforce availability. We're also going to have robots helping us. We're going to have a lot of robots helping us because we need it. And because we're going to town, we're building a lot between the AI and the auto plants. So we're going to need robots. We're going to have robots, but that's going to help us. We're going to have tremendous workforce. And in order to operate you're always going to need people. You know, you could have robots, but you're going to have to get somebody to start those robots, and you're going to have to improve the robots. But we're going to have robotic factories plus manpower. So we're going to have enough. We're going to need the help of robots and other forms of, I guess you could say, employment. We're going to be employing a lot of artificial things, but the beauty is we're going to have more jobs than we've ever had. Just so you know, a number came out the other day. We have more jobs right now in the United States. More people are working right now in the United States than at any time in the history of our country. Think of that. Pretty amazing. So we'll have the help of, mechanical help, if you want to call it that, but we'll have tremendous employment. They'll be paid a lot of money. They'll do better than they ever did. Okay? Yeah.
Mr. President, some may have been expecting a different kind of announcement today, hearing your Secretary of War and Secretary of State here. You mentioned strikes on land in Venezuela more than 15 times, even now, just in your recent remarks. Why should Maduro take your threats seriously? And
he can do whatever he wants.
What's your end game?
Maduro?
What's your end game?
There's no answer. He can do whatever he wants. I mean, we have a massive armada formed, the biggest we've ever had, and by far the biggest we've ever had in South America. He can do whatever he wants. It's all right. Whatever he wants to do. If he wants to do something, if he plays tough, it'll be the last time he's ever able to play tough. But they sent their prisoners into us. They sent people from jails, prisons. They sent people from mental institutions and insane asylums into the United States, just walked right in because Biden had an open border policy. What the Biden administration did to our country can never be forgotten. They took in millions and millions, 25 million people over the course of 4 years. Many of those people were murderers and drug dealers. prisoners, rough prisoners, 11,888 murders. More than half of them killed more than one person. They came into our country. Now, I spoke to Christine Noem today. I spoke to Tom Homan today. He came down to see me. And we had a great meeting. They've done an amazing job. We're getting them out. We're getting them out very fast. But this should have never happened. But Venezuela was Venezuela took advantage of the open borders that Biden created more than any other country. Tren de Aragua, we had gangs all over. Look, I mean, you have a very weak governor in Colorado. Look what happened in Colorado where they would occupy apartment houses. And he didn't want to do anything about it because he was scared. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, please.
So in response to the United States taking sanctioned oil from Venezuela, Colombian President Gustavo Petro criticized the United States by saying, well, the Southwest is stolen land and that it should be returned to Latin America. I just wanted to know what your response to that is.
Well, he has to watch because, you know, he's got drug factories. They make cocaine in Colombia. And he's no friend of the United States. He's very bad guy. And he's got to watch his ass because he makes cocaine and they send it into the United States of America from Colombia. We love the Colombian people. I love the Colombian people. They're great people, energetic, smart, great. But their new leader is a troublemaker. And he better watch it. He better close up those cocaine factories. They have at least 3 major cocaine factories. We know where they are. He better close them up fast, yeah. By the way, it's made and sold into the United States. Comes through Mexico.
Thank you, sir. You've named Governor Landry to be new special envoy to Greenland.
Yeah.
How do you? What do you see that role entailing? And is it still your intention that Greenland become part of the U.S.?
He viewed Louisiana, the Louisiana Purchase. He said, "I'm governor of Louisiana," and he said, "I would love." I didn't call him; he called me. He's very proactive. He's a great guy. He's a deal guy. He's a deal maker type guy. And we need it for national protection. We need Greenland for national protection. They have a very small population. And I don't know, they say Denmark, but Denmark has spent no money. They have no military protection. They say that Denmark was there 300 years ago or something with a boat. Well, we were there with boats too, I'm sure. So we'll have to work it all out. But he felt very strongly, we need it for we need Greenland for national security. Not for minerals. We have so many sites for minerals and oil and everything. We have more oil than any other country in the world. We need Greenland for national security. And if you take a look at Greenland, you look up and down the coast, you have Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need it for national security. We have to have it. And he wanted to lead the charge. So we're making him, Marco, today, a special envoy to Greenland. Greenland's a big deal. Yeah.
On the talks that took place this past weekend, and could a trilateral discussion of sort be the next step for Ukrainian, U.S., and Russian delegations?
So the talks on Ukraine, Russia are going along. They lost, as you know, 27,000 soldiers last month, mostly soldiers, some people in Kiev, etc., but mostly soldiers. And the talks are going along. And I say that, you know, there's tremendous hatred between these two leaders, between President Putin, President Zelensky, tremendous hatred. And I hope we can get it done. We are talking. Talks are going okay. But, you know, I've solved 8 wars. And Thailand is starting to shape up. You know, they started with Cambodia. They started up again. But I think, Marco, we have that in pretty good shape to have that stopped. So we stopped 8 wars. And I thought this would be in the middle of the pack. But maybe easy, but in the middle of the pack. But there's a lot of hatred between those two people, and when there's hatred, there's, you know. But we stopped one war 38 years, one war 35 years, one war was going on for 32 years. And we stopped, think of it, we stopped a potential nuclear war between Pakistan and India. And the head of Pakistan, highly respected general, he's a field marshal, and also the Prime Minister of Pakistan said, President Trump saved 10 million lives, maybe more, by getting that war. You know, 8 planes were shot down. That war was starting to rage. And he actually said the other day that President Trump saved 10 million lives, maybe more. So we solved all these wars. The only one I haven't solved yet is Russia, Ukraine.
Are you still pushing for the Christmas Day deadline with Russia and Ukraine? And have you spoken with Putin or Zelensky or plan to push the deal?
I'll do whatever I have to do. I mean, I'd like to see it stopped. Look, we don't lose any money on that war anymore. You know, Biden gave $350 billion, and who knows what happened to it. We now sell missiles, planes, all of the best military equipment. We sell it to NATO. We got NATO to go from 2% GDP to 5%. Nobody believed that to this day. Nobody's going to write that, but nobody believed it. And they take that money and they pay it to the United States for weapons. So we sell weapons to NATO. We sell full price. We sell weapons to NATO, and NATO takes those weapons and probably distributes them, but gives a lot of them to Ukraine. So we don't lose any money like we did with Biden. He was spending money like a fool. He was a fool. What he did to our country is so horrible. But he gave $350 billion between cash, gave a lot of cash, $350 between cash and weapons. You remember at the beginning of that whole thing, I gave them javelins. Javelins are the anti-tank busters. And President Obama at the time gave them sheets. I gave them javelins. They gave them sheets. But you know, the bottom line, it's time for, I think they're all tired of that war. Everyone's tired of that war. It's got to stop. Yeah, please.
The U.S. was in active pursuit of a sanctioned oil tanker yesterday. Are you able to share what became of that tanker? Was the U.S. able to seize it?
No, it's moving along, and we'll end up getting it. Yeah, we're actually pursuing it. Can you imagine? Because it came from the wrong location. It came out of Venezuela, and it was sanctioned. Yeah, please.
Ultimate goal in Venezuela to force Maduro from power.
Well, I think it probably would. I can't tell that. That's up to him, what he wants to do. I think it would be smart for him to do that. But again, we're going to find out. Look, Venezuela did terrible things to the United States. They sent hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people into our open border. They sent their criminals. They sent their prisoners. They sent their drug dealers. They sent their mentally insane and incompetent people into our country more than any other country. Others did too. The Congo did. Others did too. And we just let them come right in because we were run by a stupid president. But you don't have a stupid president anymore.
Mr. President, have you set up the meeting with the health care insurers just yet? And what are you hoping to get? How
I'll be setting it up. I think we're going to meet with healthcare, the healthcare insurers, the insurance companies. So what I'm asking for in healthcare is very simple. Obamacare is a disaster. I call it the Unaffordable Care Act. Unaffordable as opposed to, it's unaffordable. They're going to have a tremendous increase in premiums, which is Obamacare, which is them, the Democrats' fault. They'll try and blame Republicans. It has nothing to do with us. It's the Democrats' fault. What I want to do is we spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year that go to insurance companies. I want that money to go to the people and let the people buy their own health care. And everybody loves it. It's become our issue. Now, before I do that, I'll meet with the insurance companies, just as I met with the drug companies. As you know, we're meeting with 4 other drug companies, Johnson & Johnson, but they've all agreed. We're meeting with them this week. It's coming up. It'll be a similar meeting. They've all agreed. But nobody would have thought the drug companies were going to do what they did, where they're giving away free drugs. And they've been so great, okay? And we have most favored nations. Nobody thought that was possible. I don't think any other president ever tried to get it because they never thought they could. But with respect to the insurance companies, I want to meet. There's essentially 14 of them, 10 big, but there's a total of 14 pretty much, pretty big. And I want to meet with them, and I want to say, I want you to cut your rates way down, way down. And maybe if they do that, we'll be able to not cut them out. We'll be able to continue to deal with them, which is probably a little easier process. I think the best process is pay the money directly to the people, let them buy their own health care. But I'm going to meet with them the first week back. I do it now, but they're trying to come up with a schedule. They want to meet badly, they've told me. But they want to come up with a schedule. I said, make it a good schedule. Your rates have to come way down. We're also going to meet with other insurance companies because under Biden, the insurance rates have gone through the roof. Auto insurance, home insurance. I mean, insurance companies are making far more than they're entitled to make. So we're going to be doing that. But just in the meantime, we'll be meeting with the insurance companies in the first week, the first few days back in Washington, because they're trying to come up with a proposal that will satisfy me. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. I hope you're going to enjoy the battleships. They're going to be beautiful. Thank you. And have a great Christmas if I don't speak to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You muted, Joe.
Colonel, what did you think of that? That was big, beautiful ships.
Yeah, I'm ready for a big, beautiful executive order by President Trump or a big, beautiful directive by Secretary of War Hegseth, and 30 seconds to 1 minute in one of these press conferences where President Trump says, I told the Department of Defense to fix these Anthrax era records. And just as they have done for our COVID era veterans, hopefully they put forth the directives to make sure our government officials do the right thing for our Anthrax era troops. So I try to stay laser focused. And you asked about the book earlier. You know, that's the whole point of this book, a cautionary tale of my generation when the Department of Defense abused our rights. And once I saw that they were doing the same thing to our COVID era veterans, I wrote the book and I tried to put forth rules of engagement for how to conduct yourself as a whistleblower. I was able to serve for 32 years as a result of remaining professional and dispassionate and trying to methodically get things corrected. We're well underway for that for COVID era veterans. And hopefully our government does the right thing and has that compassion, that courage, that humility to do that for Anthrax era veterans as well. So when I watch a historic pronouncement like this, I also just kind of return full circle back to my laser focus on let's finish this unfinished business. Let's do the right thing for our Anthrax era veterans. Because just like COVID era veterans, what they did to my generation was patently illegal. And most importantly, the president already told them to fix it. The White House already told them to fix this, and they were undermined. So if I was able to have 30 seconds with President Trump, I'd ask him to hold officials accountable that undermined him during his first term. Make sure
You're still doing it.
Yeah, and so it's going to be a constant challenge, but this is one of those examples where he can decisively exercise his executive authority, as can Secretary of War Hegseth, in order to fix this and make sure that they never undermine them again.
I agree with that. I like the fact that you had that A-10 Thunderbolt behind you in the picture, otherwise known as the Warthog. Did you get to fly those?
I did, yeah. I flew those for several years, and when I was grounded as a result of my refusal over anthrax vaccine, I was flying that airplane. And a cartoonist with the Hartford Courant had done a cartoon. It's depicted in the book with his permission, and he actually did the cover art for this book. The cartoon that's inside the book from over 20 years ago was a couple pilots sitting in an airplane saying, "Hey, they're ordering us to take anthrax vaccine," and the other pilot saying, "Get ready to eject," like they were running away from it. Actually, it's a syringe chasing an airplane. But the new art or illustration that the same cartoonist did for my book is a A-10 going after the experimental syringe. And the whole premise of the book is going after illegal medical mandates and conducting yourself in such a way that you're able to stay in the fight, not quit, make sure that you're able to stop these mandates, just like these COVID era veterans did, as we did over 2 decades ago. But these COVID era veterans, I'm really proud of them because they passionately, persistently, unyieldingly fought back. And, I'm very grateful that our new administration, President Trump and Secretary of War Hegseth, have backed these kids up, and they're actually putting them back to work. And so, we're going in a really good direction. And even though it's been 2 decades of frustration for me, I'm inspired by all this great progress. And I hope that ultimately that translates into record corrections, discharge upgrades for our anthrax era veterans. It's zero cost. It's just printing a piece of paper or updating the personnel system. These folks did their duty. They challenged a patently illegal order, and we're going to make sure that they've got the paperwork that shows that. For the few people that they did actually correct records, they gave them good conduct medals. I'm very proud of them. For enlisted members, they gave them good conduct medals. The least we can do as a grateful nation is to correct these folks' paperwork, give them fully honorable discharge certificates. And, for your friend and his deceased father, send them a honorable discharge certificate, because if he got kicked out, he more likely than not got a less than honorable discharge. We need to get that corrected. Hopefully you can help your friend get that corrected. Refer him over to me. I do it all the time. I try to show people the path. There is a path for fixing this. And so it can be done. But the Department of Defense should do the honorable right thing, a proactive review for all veterans. They're supposed to have a list. Congress ordered them in the 2001 National Defense Authorization Act, 10 U.S.C. 1178. It's like 2 lines of the law. It says, form a list, put together a list of troops that were kicked out over anthrax vaccine refuser. They have the list, or they should have the list by law. Take that list, start printing out those honorable discharge certificates.
Colonel, first of all, I got to get a hold of you. Can you get your book? Can people listen to your book on Audible and things like that? Is it on there as well, or no?
I don't have an Audible, but they do have it on Kindle. I find the Kindle version, it's cheaper, and it's great because you can search it, right? So you can look up names, you can look up laws, you can look up keywords. So I like the Kindle version in that regard. And it's also important to note that I get zero money. I don't touch any money, never have over the many, many years. And so all profits from this book go to the widow of my colleague that I mentioned before, the late Lieutenant Colonel Russell Dingle. He was my subordinate level commander. He was in charge of our Tiger team. He's the guy I followed. He was the only guy being honest. And so he passed away. All profits from the book go to his widow. And so he's the guy that actually discovered in researching in medical and law libraries and government archives. He's the one who discovered that FDA had actually never finalized the license for anthrax vaccine. They were supposed to do it as early as 1972. By 1985, they published a proposed rule. They never finalized it. And by 2003, the federal court said, hey, this is absolutely illegal. You haven't even finalized this license that you're telling everybody is safe, effective, and FDA approved. It was none of those things. They blatantly broke the law, as they did with the COVID era shots. And hopefully they're going to hold Department of Defense officials accountable for this, but at a minimum, fix everybody's records.
All right. Colonel, how do people follow you? Are you out there talking on social medias?
Sure. You can Google search my name and Anthrax, Rempfer. Lots of different interviews like this one that you've been so gracious to give me the opportunity to explain the issues. My website is unyielding.org or hoping4justice.org, using the number 4, hoping4justice.org. But unyielding.org is probably the easiest way. Just click on the book cover, takes you to the publisher's website. Very grateful to Skyhorse Publishing and Children's Health Defense for sponsoring this book. RFK Jr. quote right there at the top of the book, that actually comes from his book, The Wuhan Cover-Up, where he basically makes the case that it was a lab leak and they covered it up. All turned out to be true. All government agencies today agree that it was COVID was a lab leak out of Wuhan with some level of U.S. cooperation and culpability. And fortunately, again, the Trump administration's putting forth executive orders to get a grip on that, halt that, put some curbs on dangerous research, gain-of-function research. So a lot of good things coming from this administration. And I wrote the book over a couple of years, published it over a year ago, and basically everything's come true to include my encouragement for them to correct records for our troops. Not done, not finished. The mission is ongoing, but I'm very confident that it'll happen in time because we have good elected leaders that are not only did they try to do the right thing in 2018 with getting anthrax era veterans records corrected, but they're doing so, setting the precedent for COVID era veterans to include these proactive reviews, not making people apply. I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of anthrax era veterans that probably are no longer with us anymore. Yeah, they can't apply to the corrections boards. Maybe their families could if they were aware, but there's been no outreach. There should be outreach, just as they're doing for COVID era veterans, proactively reviewing records and sending either the service member or their families a fully honorable discharge certificate. Honorably discharged. They deserve it. They did their duty. And again, that goes back to this whole discussion, very healthy cultural discussion for our country to contemplate the illegality of orders. Soldiers across 2 generations with anthrax and with COVID, they did that. They did their duty. They analyzed the order. They determined they were patently illegal. They did not comply. That was in compliance with the Constitution and their oath of office. And the government should basically, apologize to those folks and do everything they can to make it right for those folks. With anthrax, it's zero cost. Just print out those new discharge certificates and send them to the service members or their families. And people will be grateful. It's been a long time. It's a long time coming, but people are very humble and gracious, and they will be very proud and grateful to receive those honorable discharge certificates.
All right. Colonel Rempfer, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate you very much. I'm going to read your book. You can even send me a signed copy if you want.
Thank you, Joe. I'll do that. Have your team send me your address. I'll send you a signed copy, and you can click on unyielding.org, click on the book, and you can order the book via Amazon or any other online book company.
All right. I appreciate you. God bless you. Thanks for all the work you've done over the last couple of decades.
Take care, Joe. Tommy, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas to you too, sir.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I want to have him back on after I read his book. I mean, after reading Fred
contact.
Yeah, after reading Fred Galvin's book, man, it changed me. And I, to look at how many different places in the military or even in the government structure that people get away with doing bad things to people, it bothers me a lot.
Yeah, no, there's that section in Galvin's book where he's talking about the unnecessary dropping of JDAMs in proximity to these Marines, and the guy in charge of it is going, well, I'm willing to sacrifice these Marines. And it was clearly he was just trying to combat.
He didn't just say that. He said, are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice?
And Galvin's talking about the shockwaves and the brain tissue, and he's like, what the fuck? But I also love the quote where they're meeting with the World War II vets and they're like, any advice? And then she goes, kill them all. It's like this hardcore.
Yeah, dude, his book. Now I've now read his book twice, and I read it the first time to understand it, the second time to get a better feel for it. You're talking about over a decade later, and he still is dealing with the fallout as a result of this. And I think President Trump, the problem is that there's so much bad stuff that's done, and the system does not have the mechanisms in place in order to solve these problems faster. And the reason being is that we have lots of bad people in positions of trust and authority all over the government. And I just, and we have a lot of, only I think this is true. I don't know if it's true, but I think it's true. I think 1% of our population truly has courage and truly is not afraid of the consequences for speaking truth. And the other 99%, I think about maybe another 9% will say something, but then when challenged, can back off, but they still want to say something. And then 50% are just dumber than rocks. I mean, let's just admit it. 50% of our population is cattle.
Yeah, no, deadweight cattle.
And then 40% would do something for you if it was convenient for them. Otherwise, they'd just let you ride.
They know something's wrong. They should do it, but they're pussies. 9% are willing to kind of step up to the edge, and 1% of them got that Apache blood.
Yeah, I got Apache blood. And I already know I have Apache blood. So I'm ready. And I'm training.
Which is why Joe's running for governor.
I am training like crazy. How many push-ups can you do?
Right now I'm up to 2 sets of 75.
Okay. So I do 100 in the morning when I wake up.
Hell yeah.
And I mean, I can do 100 push-ups. I probably should time it, but I'm like, bam. And I'm talking, by the way, chest to the floor.
Yeah, no,
none of this wussy stuff, right?
I can do 75 consecutive, followed by 15 pull-ups, and then I wait a minute and do that again. But then after that, I'm gassed.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend, and he's like, Joe, how many push-ups do you do? And he's like a meathead. And I was like, I don't know. I do 100 in the morning when I wake up. He goes, oh, you can't do 100 straight. I was like, oh yeah. Okay. I'll bet you $100. Turns out he couldn't do 100 straight. Big old meathead. Lifts weights,
that's
can't do 100.
If anything that hurts you, that's kind of the beauty of body weight. Is it's the great equalizer. If you're all muscle, that means you're also pushing up 250 pounds of muscle. If you're rail thin, you're only pushing up rail thin.
Well,
body weights are humbling.
So I actually want to at some point go through and do an entire show, by the way, on things that people tell me, like, "Oh, Joe, you're fat," and I'm like, or what? I go, I'm not fat.
Husky.
But I had some nice death threats the last couple of days. One just came in. This was a fun one. Ah, man, we're not going to go through that. Let's talk about a few other things before we actually trim up this show. President Trump just made an announcement. He triples the self-deportation incentive to $3,000 through December 31st. Let's play it.
Go through the immigration process anymore. They're in the country illegally and they're going to self-deport. And you're announcing a new incentive. What is that announcement, Madam Secretary?
Well, it's home for the holidays season. So, not only are we returning those kiddos back to their families that Biden lost, we also are saying that if you voluntarily want to go home now to your country, if you're in this United States of America illegally, we will give you $3,000 through the holidays to send you home. We'll buy you a ticket, give you $3,000 to go home, and that includes people that have not been detained, maybe have interacted with us, are detained and don't have criminal charges against them. Yeah, raise your hand. We'll help you get home. We'll facilitate it, and you might get the chance to come back to this country the right way.
Speaking of that, our election systems, which President Trump did not talk about, which I find offensive. Look, if we don't get rid of machines and mail-in ballots and get to one day in-person voting, if we don't gut the people in this country who have stolen through a coup the true insurrection, our country and our vote, we're finished as a country. But what if I told you that there's a guy in Massachusetts that is the mayor? This is how ridiculous our system is. This is the mayor of Lawrence, Massachusetts. He's in court and he needs a translator because he doesn't understand English. Play it.
So I'm advised by counsel for the respondent that they indeed encourage this and substitution and have no objection and waive any objection they would have to the use of your services as a translator here. The division has a concern and has raised an objection based on the fact that counsel, much like me in my capacity as a hearing officer, don't speak Spanish, and therefore we're unable to decide independently whether questions are being translated both directions from the attorney and from the witness accurately. So I appreciate that objection. I do believe that under the circumstances, without objection from the respondent, we could proceed with your services. The risk is that there are many people associated with these proceedings, including the respondent himself and other people on the...
Do you have any idea why he was in jail or why he was in court? You want to know why he was in court?
I didn't even think about that. I was just focused on the fact that he couldn't speak the fucking language.
You want me to tell you?
Hit and run.
How about child porn?
I mean,
true story. Not only do you get a mayor who does not speak English, but he's exploiting children for sexual pleasure.
Battleship on his town. Fuck that place.
I don't. This is unbelievable. And by the way, the truck driver who caused a fatal accident in Washington, this is unbelievable. Go ahead and play it.
Truck driver from India has been released from custody after being accused of causing a deadly chain reaction crash earlier this month in Washington state. He spent just one day in jail before posting $100,000 in bond. But when police didn't follow up with a case for prosecutors to present in court, that bond was returned. The suspect entered the U.S. illegally under the Biden administration and obtained a commercial driver's license in California. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem will join.
Somebody lost their family member as a result of this. And this is why I say there's no victimless crimes. You have killers that are taking people out. You have people in our own country that are domestic terrorists. These are domestic treasonous terrorists that are causing harm to the American people. They need to be held accountable. They need to actually be tried for treason, and if found guilty, hung by the neck till death.
Executed, yeah.
I'm not, and you know, in tune with what President Trump just said, is that if you bring drugs into our country, we're going to just blow up your boat. Or if you bring it in by land, we're going to just blow you up. What are we going to do for the people who say that they're Americans that are stealing the sovereignty of our nation? What are you going to say to them when they have this guy, George Soros, that for a couple bags of shekels? How about the people in our country that have stolen us, stolen our ethos, the very value of who we are?
Blow them up.
You can only.
I just don't see any other measure that will work at this point. I mean, look at what we just saw. Despite Trump miraculously winning the election, we have a guy who's a mayor who doesn't speak English in court for his case for having child porn. Yeah. There is no. You have to just kill them all. I don't.
Reelected. He was reelected. Listen to me.
You have to kill. And I don't speak for Joe. I don't speak for this show. I speak for me. You have to kill them all.
Listen, he was reelected after they found out that he had child porn. Exactly. You still believe it?
This is not solved by a talk. This is not solved by a viral Twitter thread. This is solved by execution.
But this liberal woman has an idea. She has a suggestion for us. Go ahead, play it.
How about we all mass deport Republicans and MAGA and keep the illegals? Because they know how to treat people, unlike MAGA.
It's a cadaver.
Hey, can you put a picture up again?
And they're playing with her body.
Did you see her eyes? What happened to her eyes?
That is a cadaver. She's involved.
How about we all mass deport?
What happened to your eyes? What is it?
What's the one? Sugar, water. Yeah, no, that's a cadaver. Somebody's puppeting that. You can tell they didn't stretch her face accurately back over her skull. Her right eye's out of the socket. Yeah. No, yeah, it's execute them.
Okay. I don't even know. She's the weirdo. But here's a Facebook highlighting Trump's success video. Let's go and play it.
The illegals are leaving. Check. Gas is cheap. Check. Drug traffickers is getting blown up. Boom, 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 boom. Check. And they cutting all the food stamp fraud. Check. This is what I voted for.
Dude, I got to tell you something. I had my card. Where's my credit card at? Daggone it. It has my credit card. I have this sticker tab over it. I want to thank my friends for giving it to me. And it has President Trump when he says fight, fight, fight. And he just got shot in the ear. Right. So that's my credit card. So I'm very careful not to pay for my food until after I get my food, just because.
Oh. But yeah, no, that's you're wondering why. I don't think that was your only anthrax poisoning, man.
So I went in to get some Thai food, and I handed her the card, and I'm picking up my to-go food. Food's not up yet. I'm a little nervous, but I go in there all the time, so they really know me. So, and I'm down and I'm. No idea who's calling me. So I go in there. I hand her the card. She looks at the card. She goes, "Oh no, you did not." I was like, she liked me. And she goes, "Hey, this is awesome." And she calls out the other one. She goes, "Hey, Mia, look." She shows her the card. And they both start laughing like, "That's an awesome card. Where'd you get that card?" Everywhere I turn, everyone supports what's happening in this country, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Now, I don't think it's happening fast enough, but I do have this. Here's a breakdown of Hakeem Jeffries being shook of what's coming next. I hope this is the hopium you guys all wanted. I gave it to you. Play it.
My American people, it hurts my heart to have to come to you and tell you the truth. Donald Trump is telling the truth, and I'm scared that they're gonna indict me too. I have stolen millions of dollars and told wonderful lies to you. Somewhere down the street, they allow Donald Trump to become the president again. Now, my vacation in the Bahamas can't work because I'm scared that I will be indicted also. But before I get sent in, I need y'all to know it wasn't only me. Hillary, Barack, and Michael, Al Sharpton, Roland Martin, all us, Jasmine Crockett, Letitia James, Adam Schiff, we all stole around the same amount, except for Joe Biden and Kamala. So, my Democrat dummies, I need y'all to go to your dummiest stage of your mind and help us fight back against Trump so I can still keep the millions that I've stole from y'all. Help me. Help me. I, Hakeem Jeffries, approve this message. Thank you.
Does Hakeem Jeffries use a translator or a?
No, that's what he does every time he speaks. It literally
really?
That looks like Hakeem Jeffries.
Oh, is that what he does? I thought
all the time, bro.
I thought he was making fun of sign language.
No, he's making fun of Hakeem Jeffries, and then he needs to, he's not a real guy, man. He's not real. All right, so we'll end it. I'm going to pray us out. Ready? Pray us out, and then on the pray out, we're going to after the prayer, we're going to backfire. We're going to play a new song called "Backfire on La Vista." It's a new Tina song. I want to play it. It's going to be awesome. Shout out to Jared for doing that for us. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, that's good. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. We're now on Roku. So you can get us there as well. And frankly, you can find us pretty much everywhere. Oh, pill.com or pill.net. Let me just say, shout out to them. And YouTube. Man, I'm on YouTube, but frankly, it's not working out over there. It's just not. They don't like me over there. All right. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Father God, thank you for our guest today. Thank you for President Trump showing us leadership. And yeah, I'm really upset over some of the things that he didn't say, but I'm going to be patient, Father, because I know it is your path, not mine. So we are grateful, Father. We're grateful for the birth of Jesus and that we're able to celebrate in just a few days. Father, help us that we may honor you in our path forward. Father, I'm frustrated. I just want things to happen faster. And I know that everything happens in your time, not ours, but help us that way as we go through the holidays, that we can, just maintain faith, maintain the peace in our hearts, and know that you have everything handled. Help to lift the burden off those that are sick. And Father, I ask you to bless Tina Peters as she's in jail, that she may be at peace. And that she can get out of jail here shortly. Prison, sorry, not jail. Help us, Father, that we may stand together, create a fraternity, and be able to fight against this evil that's tried to take over everything about our communities, our country, and the world. We know that it's going to take courage, and we also know it's going to take action. But Father, we want to be clear that we don't want to become the very thing that we're fighting against. So help us that we may maintain our own character while we fight against the evil characters in our community. I say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
The Father, and the Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. And that you guide Joe as you pray and decide on your decision over the next couple of days.
Do I or do I not run for governor of Colorado? Because if I do, it's going to become. You
already know my answer. My answer is yes, and then deploy the military. But I think you know that.
You know what? Here's the thing. I do not think you can win anything in Colorado unless you bring in the 40% of the population that have been forgotten. And, the people that should vote for you anyway. But the people that deserve not to live in a desert, that have been betrayed by the Democrat Party, that say, oh, we're here to help you, well, they basically throw them to the wind and create deserts, food deserts, and opportunity deserts, and education deserts. Those are the people. Those are my tribe. Those are the ones that I want to give an opportunity to in the future. So that's the reason why I would run. I would run just for them. Because they deserve a voice. They deserve a voice. They deserve to be not just talked about, but be about. Be about those people. And I don't think the Democrats, I think they've done exactly what Margaret Sanger wanted to do. They want to kill them off. They want to genocide entire generations. And then they want to make them so that they don't have any tools available, so that even if you do get out, all you'll do is do their bidding. It's a pretty sad system. So there you go.
I'll pray for the Lord's guidance, and you will do.
100%.
You know how it goes. All right,
thanks for joining us, brother. God bless you.
I'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
You as well.
Yeah, Tina Peters locked up tight, but she's still spilling fire. La Vista prison shaking, trying to bury the truth in mire. Black mold thick on every wall, inmate scrubbing with no mask, knowing 95, bare hands bleeding, breathing poison, that's the task. Food straight garbage, tiny portions, taste like yesterday's regret. Water dirty and foul, making bodies sick, you bet. Backfire on the big house, Tina's dropping bombs, civil rights violations, they still hiding all the wrongs. La Vista in a panic, covering up the shame. Tina's voice is thunder, calling out the game. Twanging beats collide, truth won't be denied. Exposing all the darkness, no more places left to hide. Pro-eds promise federal funds vanish in thin air. No rehab, no classes, just a trap that keeps them there. Transport guard crossing lines, raping souls in the van. Tina calls it out loud, now they trying to hush the plan. Deputy warden Cordova sneaking inmates out the gate. Shopping trips and family visits, breaking rules, sealing fate. Backfire on the big house, Tina's dropping bombs. Civil rights violations, they still hiding all the wrongs. The Vista in panic, covering up the shame. Tina's voice is thunder, calling out the game. Twanging beats collide, truth won't be denied. Exposing all the darkness, no more places left to hide. From the cell to the spotlight, Tina's turning tables round. Prison wall still standing, but the secret's coming down. No more sweeping violations under dirty rug. Tina's fighting for the truth, pulling off the plug. Now the warden sweating bullets, painting over every crack, fixing pipes and serving slop, but the damage coming back. Tina's just getting started, exposing every lie. Backfire like a shotgun, watch the corrupt system fry. Country roads to hip-hop flows, as bangers ringing out. The Vista's nightmare, Tina's bringing the drought. Yeah. Backfire on the prison. Ain't us winning this war. No more hiding in the shadows. Truth is knocking at the door.
Rise up untamed. In the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam, Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Tame nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Truth forever.
True forever.